Another season, another Mohamed Salah masterclass.
Here comes Salah. Salah! Salah! Yes! Yes! Mohamed Salah!
Despite getting older, his numbers keep improving.
This season, top scorer, assist, top of that. Where do you replace those numbers?
He's locked down that right winger spot for years, but now he is taking over as the best player in the world.
Is Salah the best player in the world? Oh, I think he is.
Every week, he is breaking some kind of record as he pushes Liverpool to the top.
And Mo Salah continues to put in the numbers, put in the performances.
Well, he's just a record breaker, isn't he?
So how come despite the numbers, despite the consistency, some people still overlook the Egyptian?
Football is easy.
I don't think people realize how iconic Mohamed Salah is. No, not because he posts a Christmas tree photo every year. Still crazy how much backlash this guy gets, but mashallah, he's mentally strong. He posts it anyways. Then he scored a day later on Boxing Day. Wallahi, he might be the greatest of all time. He is iconic because now his name is among the list of players that seemed untouchable. Players that are universally seen as the greatest players in Premier League history. He passed Wayne Rooney for the most Premier League games with a goal or assist. He is in the top 10 for all-time Premier League top goal scorers.
He'll have an eye on Thierry Henry and Frank Lampard by the end of this season, I would imagine.
By the time that you see this video, he might have already surpassed Thierry Henry, who in many people's eyes is the greatest Premier League player of all time, and he might have already surpassed Frank Lampard, who in many people's eyes is the greatest Premier League midfielder of all time.
If I can go down as having more goals than someone like a Thierry Henry, come on, man. And we look at him as the GOAT.
Salah is also at the top when it comes to Liverpool's all-time top goal scorers. In the Champions League, he is their top scorer. Now I get it, it's always hard to appreciate players that are currently still playing, but Salah, he's an all-timer. He has been one of the faces of the Premier League for years now, him and Kevin De Bruyne.
Who do we vote for Footballer of the Year?
I vote for Salah.
You did?
Yeah.
Because?
Because he deserves it.
His consistency is actually phenomenal. He is the first player since the competition began in 1992 to produce 10 plus goals and 10 plus assists in 4 consecutive seasons. He also became the first player in Premier League history to reach double figures for goals and assists before Christmas. We're seeing a player in real time cement his legacy as the greatest right winger in Premier League history, yet people on Twitter want to argue about how aesthetic his game looks. Like, I don't care if this guy moves like ChatGPT, he is one of the greatest, if not the greatest player to play in the Premier League. The argument about his aesthetic game doesn't even make sense. Sure, sometimes Salah's dribbling doesn't look the prettiest, and as we will see later in the video, his dribbling stats have actually gone down, but he is still absolutely a joy to watch. Salah is in the superstar tier of players, the type of guy who creates magic, creates something out of nothing. Sure, he has scored tap-ins, but he's also scored some unbelievable goals. If you don't find a player who has the potential of creating something every time he touches the ball, then the sport isn't for you. Maybe when Salah eventually retires, he will be looked at more fondly, because I found with his career, people always like to move the goalposts. Because let me take you guys back in time. When Salah first arrived at Liverpool, his reputation was that he was a Premier League reject.
Everyone told me, no, don't change, the Premier League is difficult for you. And they just talk, so...
Oh, there's a lot of talking in football.
The English media did not care that he had done well at Fiorentina and Roma. They didn't care that he was Roma's player of the season in 2016. That he helped them finish second in Serie A while picking up 18 goals and 15 assists in 2017. To them, Liverpool had just spent a large amount of money on a player who had flopped at Chelsea.
It's like many doubts. Like the people were talking a lot now, it's not good enough for English football, you know. It shouldn't come back. In Italy, it's like a bit slow, the football, you know.
There were questions about whether he could replicate the same numbers in England, which kind of makes sense, especially when reports came out that Jurgen Klopp didn't even want Salah as one of his first choices.
Mo Salah, and Jurgen Klopp's quite open about this, he didn't want to sign Mo Salah. He wanted to sign Julian Brandt.
Now Salah, he was determined to succeed in England, not just to silence the doubters, but to prove to himself that he could compete and perform at the highest level possible in the league that many deem as the best league in the world.
In my mind, I was like, it's my league, I will come back. I will come back and for sure I will succeed here.
Yeah.
You can see his mental toughness. I mean, why else would this guy make the same post every single year around Christmas time, knowing the backlash he gets? He doesn't care.
The way he left the Premier League and the way he came back into the Premier League is just astonishing.
And in that first season, he did just that. silencing the doubters. Salah ended the first season getting 44 goals and 14 assists. Arguably to this day, his best ever individual season. He won the Golden Boot, was the PFA Players Player of the Year, and in the PFA Team of the Year. He was also named on the 3-man shortlist for the UEFA Men's Player of the Year, coming in 3rd place, and was also included on the 3-man shortlist for the UEFA Forward of the Season, coming in 2nd place. The Ramos incident ended up souring an incredible year for him. Despite having a WWE finisher move pulled on him, he was actually incredible in the Champions League. He got 10 goals and was the biggest reason that Liverpool had made it to the final. He scored in both quarterfinals matches against Manchester City and put on a masterclass against his former club Roma in the semis. I mean, look at how petrified Pep was of the Salah Mane front three before the Champions League quarterfinal. He was being called the Egyptian Messi, so you make of that what you will. So after that season, well, the critics couldn't say that he can't do it in England anymore, so they changed the narrative. Now Salah was just a one-season wonder who had one lucky year. So Salah decided to silence them again by winning the Golden Boot again in the 2019 season. He got 27 goals and 12 assists in all competitions, and he got his redemption in the Champions League. With no Ramos there to suplex him like UFC, he ended up scoring in the final and added a Champions League to his trophy cabinet. From that season on, Salah continued to get better and better. 19 goals and 10 assists in the 2020 season as Liverpool became Premier League champions. In 2021, when Liverpool as a team were struggling with injuries and COVID, Salah still ended up getting 31 goals in all competitions, 22 of them coming in the Premier League. Then of course 2022, he won both the Golden Boot and Playmaker of the Season. Like, do people realize how insane that is? To be at the top of the charts both for goals and assists. That's about as complete as you can get. And it's even more impressive when you realize that playmaking was an aspect of Salah's game that he's really improved over the years. When he first arrived, obviously he could create, but it wasn't the best part of his game. In fact, throughout the years, him and Mane would get into fights because Salah was a bit selfish. He wanted to get the goals, he wasn't looking for passes as much. It was also an area of his game that people used to criticize, saying he's not a superstar level talent because he doesn't have the playmaking of the top tier quality players. But of course, Salah, being who he is, always wanting to add things and skills to his locker, ended up becoming better as a playmaker as he's aged. I mean, you can see the changes statistically. Every season, his assist numbers go up. His expected assists go up. The number of chances he creates for others go up. But you can also see it from watching him play. He is now making passes that you would have seen him do maybe once or twice a year in 2018, every single week. I think as he's aged, he's become more mature, his intelligence has gone up, but he's also dribbling less. Not only are his number of attempted take-ons on the decline, but so is his dribble success percentage. That's actually really plummeted from his early years at Liverpool. But his numbers in terms of creativity remain still very consistent. In all but 7 of his Liverpool campaigns, he has created between 103 and 106 chances for a teammate. And think about it, he doesn't take corners or free kicks anymore. He attracts so much attention that it creates space automatically for his teammates. He can either provide a Travella type assist like what he did for Gakpo against Newcastle, or he can curve one in with the inside of his left foot like he did for Diaz against Chelsea. Whether it's by finding runners towards the back post or playing through balls into the penalty area, Salah is Liverpool's most important tool when trying to break down a defensive block. Salah knows this too. It's why Salah is Liverpool's first outlet from long balls. He's been receiving more of them than any of his previous seasons. This is what makes Salah such a lethal attacker. As he's aged, he's become so complete. A player that can both score and create at a high level is literally impossible to defend. Because if the defender gets too close to him, well, Salah will blow right by him and curve one into the back of the net. If you back off of Salah and give him too much space and time, then he finds the perfect pass. This is exactly why he's already in the top 10 for all-time top goal scorers, and he's very likely to also get in for the top 10 all-time for assists. He really is in the same tier as Wayne Rooney and Thierry Henry, players who are more than just good goal scorers. Now, where you want to rank those guys within the tier, that's up to you guys. You can debate in the comments, but I don't think it's a hot take to say that Salah is in that list with them. I mean, he's statistically there, but he's also there through the eye test. What's great about Salah is he isn't just stat padding against lower teams. He's one of the best big game performers out there. So haters couldn't even push that agenda for long because he has scored 47 goals and gotten 21 assists against the traditional Big Six teams. Manchester City is one of the greatest teams to ever grace the Premier League, yet Salah has dunked on them time and time again. What makes him so lethal these days is that sometimes you're watching the game and you feel like he's ghosting. He hasn't really been involved, barely touched the ball, and then suddenly he pops out and gets a goal or assist. It's actually a quality that he developed after talking to Wenger.
I think I get advice from Arsene Wenger before. Then I asked him what's the difference between a good player and a really, really good player. He said, I think the very, very good player is always focused in the game. Even if he doesn't have the momentum, he stay in the game until the last minute.
Now, I've learned that that's actually one of Salah's best qualities, the fact that he's inevitable. But I can understand why sometimes it gets overlooked, because I'll be watching the game and he'll get a goal or assist, but I didn't feel like he was the best player on the pitch.
I know there's some games I don't have the momentum, I don't have the game, but I'm always focused in the game to finish it off. Yes, yeah. Mini games, right?
So in the past, I used to be guilty of this. I thought at times Salah's numbers looked way better than his actual performances. But at the end of the day, goals win you games, and Salah is pretty much involved in the majority of Liverpool's goals. So who cares? Especially when the guy's been doing it for a decade. That's the main thing. Any doubts I had about his numbers versus his performances from actually watching, I threw them out the window, because I've been watching this guy every single match day since he came to Liverpool, and when someone's doing something at such a high level so consistently, there is no point in looking for criticisms or looking for little weaknesses. He's one of the best. But I always remember that, because I think that might be one of the reasons that he gets overlooked or people forget about him. I have to come up with these kind of theories because to this day, I don't know why a player who scored 25 goals and got 14 assists wasn't part of the 30-man nomination for the Ballon d'Or. I don't really know how else to describe it other than the fact that maybe people watched his games and weren't impressed, or they forgot about his stats, because it makes no sense. I'm not saying the guy should have won the award, but he wasn't even part of the top 30. In 2023, he was ranked 11th, despite scoring 30 goals and getting 16 assists. In 2023, he was literally carrying the Reds on his shoulders. That season, Liverpool finished 5th in the Premier League. I don't even know where they would have been without Salah. I think the other thing that holds Salah back is lack of team trophies. Some of the debates that Salah is in, or the way that he's viewed, would be completely different had Liverpool won another Premier League title or they won a Champions League. And they were so close, man. You know, we're talking about them making 3 Champions League finals, losing 2 of them. Imagine one of those goes a different way. Then you look at the amount of tight Premier League races. I mean, imagine if they had won one of those seasons, one of those league titles, how differently we would view Salah with more team trophies. Thankfully, he seems to be on the path to achieve that. Because usually, narratives pushed by Twitter, I ignore. But when a player ranks so low in multiple years, despite being so good individually for the Ballon d'Or, that tells you that journalists, captains, managers, as a whole, they're overlooking Salah. And you have to keep in mind that we do live at a time where social media plays a massive role in the way that pundits, journalists, people view the sport as a whole. Look at how active Jamie Carragher is on Twitter. Look at how many social media people Sky Sports and Talk Sports brings on their show. The way that they talk about the game, it does change the perception of people. Now, Salah is so good that honestly this video doesn't do it justice, which is why I have a whole documentary on his journey to the top. You have to check it out right here.